Hi, everyone, and welcome to Verizon Network Fleet's 5 Smart Ways to Help Boost Fleet Utilization webinar. My name's Jana Turley, and I'll be your moderator today, taking your questions for the presenter throughout the broadcast. As we wait for everyone to join today's webinar, I'll cover just a few housekeeping items. Today's webinar is scheduled for approximately 30 minutes and includes a Q&A session at the end. We encourage you to ask questions throughout the webinar. You may do so by entering a question using the questions button within your webinar player. Also within your webinar player, should you wish to view this presentation in full screen or modify the volume, you'll find those controls in the bottom right corner. If you would like to download the slides from today's presentation, you can access those as well as other related documents from the attachments button. If you miss any part of today's presentation, this webinar will be made available for on-demand viewing within minutes of the conclusion. Our presenter today is Matt Mickelson, a GPS telematics sales manager with Verizon Network Fleet. Matt currently manages a sales team in the Southeast region, working with businesses to help them increase productivity and reduce the cost of their mobile workforce. He has an extensive background in management and software consulting, and has led successful engagements such as an ISO 9000 registration for an OEM manufacturer, a software implementation for a power utility company, and enterprise software selection projects for multiple firms. Matt has 9 years of telematics experience and holds a Bachelor of Science in Business Management from the University of Massachusetts at Dartmouth. And with that, Matt, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Jana. Can you hear me okay?
We sure can.
I appreciate that. Welcome to everyone on the webinar. I know we have a national audience. Some of you, good morning, some good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time here. Very eager to chat with you about our 5 smart ways to help boost fleet utilization. And the subtag line there, learn how to do more with less, or learn how to do more with what you've got, is, I think, a good summary of what a lot of us attribute to utilization. So I think a valuable discussion. We'll target 20 minutes or so here with a little Q&A and get you all out on time. So with no further ado, we'll move forward. So this question, do you know your fleet utilization rate, is one that you may have asked yourself either in this form or similar forms, such as, I wonder if I'm using all the vehicles that I've got. I wonder if the assets, the drivers, the tools that I employ in doing what I do, whether it's private sector or public, making money or serving the public in a certain way, is being done as best you can. This is the nature of our discussion today, and something that I think is extremely helpful to ask oneself. So our agenda today, really first a brief discussion about the value of improving fleet utilization, the results some of our customers have, and then smartly into these 5 steps that you can take now, identifying the metrics and things that really make up what utilization is for you, better scheduling, better planning for the preventative maintenance that you've got, being able to look at how your jobs actually happen with real data, not just your executive thumbnail view, which is valuable, but data, as we all know, can help. Addressing last-minute changes to sending people in different directions, the demands that come up throughout your workday, work week, and then being prepared for the things you can't control, changes in weather, traffic, and other factors. That's what we'll be talking about today specifically. So utilization, often cited as the #1 challenge for organizations to be profitable or to achieve their mission. Monitoring fleet utilization is a big help in identifying inefficiencies, red flags. I often tell folks in telematics, I don't necessarily know how to run your business, but boy, can I help you ask the right questions. If you don't have this kind of access to data, and if you don't have a plan for it, oftentimes you'll be missing out on opportunities to put that great managerial talent you've got to work solving problems that you may not even know about. So excessive idling, idling for some companies can be very important. For others, a vehicle stopped with the engine running, such as a shredder or a vacuum or some other type of machine, that's when the machine does work. So idling for some may or may not be, the key metric, but sooner or later there will be. Insufficient routing, properly arranging your assets across the area you serve, and having a proper balance there is important. And then being proactive rather than reactive in the way you schedule maintenance. These things can help you adapt to staffing properly and being able to respond to what the market and the weather and the conditions of what you do happen. You'll be able to apply your services in a way that matters. So taking a look here, these are some results of a national survey. Utilization of vehicles actually dropped nationally for these survey companies. This is done by a large organization. Actually dropped by 1% in 2015. That resulted in a loss of $1.8 million worth of profit, not just revenue, but profit in this survey. This is an amazing statistic and one that I think intrinsically we all may agree with. Here's a government fleet case study. This is one government customer here where they had 352 vehicles before the utilization study took place. The utilization study took place. They redid their behaviors and dropped 65 vehicles from the active roster of their vehicles, yet accomplished that same mission. The net savings, including the cost of fleet management solution, was literally almost $400,000. This is a tremendous savings and one that you might also experience. So we're eager to keep that conversation running. What kind of steps can you take now to boost the utilization of your fleet? If you do it, I can tell you that increasing your utilization up to 20% is something that our customers do and you may achieve. This is the pie chart's really self-explanatory here, a before and after of how often the vehicles are regularly used or not regularly used, and being able to appropriately manage those, select the right ones. This can also help with deciding whether or not to buy or lease your vehicles and answer so many other great questions. So let's jump right into those 5 things you can do now, those smart things you can do to begin capturing your fleet utilization in a better fashion. So identifying key metrics. For some companies and organizations, miles traveled may tell you a lot. For some of you, traveling 100 miles in a day is a bare minimum. For others, that would be a red flag. That's too many. Doesn't matter. Whatever your metrics are, let's identify them. And these are just a few examples. After hours utilization between a certain parameters of hours, perhaps you let your vehicles go home at night, or perhaps you should, based on how they're utilized. You may have a resistance to that now. I've got several customers who resisted the notion of letting their vehicles go home at night, but when they had a system like ours that can help give them routine visibility into after-hours utilization of their vehicles, when they move and how they move, alerts and so on, got more comfortable and increased their ability to get to where they needed to go. Because sometimes that employee's first job is closer to their home than it is to your particular building or lot where the vehicles are. Drive time versus on-site time versus idle time are just some of the metrics that you may consider are important. And there are literally dozens that we can capture and show. And this is what you would do with some of that. You would take those metrics and put them into a dashboard. The metrics that are most important to you that trigger, hey, if they're, let's talk about idle time, for instance. Maybe you're not concerned about a vehicle idling for 20 minutes or less, but boy, when it goes over 20 minutes, you start to get some concern. That can be the threshold limit for one metric on your dashboard, and you can see what percentage of your fleet is actually obeying and living to that metric. And of course, you can drill down from within the dashboard to figure out which particular units and vehicles are in violation. So a tremendous opportunity to use dashboard to bring you to those metrics that are important to you. The way you schedule preventative maintenance, you may find a lot of customers, both in public sector and private, often tell me, I can't really control the maintenance of my vehicle. That's a big problem with being able to have accurate utilization of the fleet. I have to keep some buffer, they tell me. And that's true. I mean, I don't think that ever goes away, but I can tell you that I have customers who, when they are able to plan out what their maintenance looks like, it's a tremendous benefit. So how often you change your oil may differ from vehicle to vehicle. Our system has a tremendous diagnostic capability on vehicles, can tell you all sorts of things about how those vehicles operate and what conditions are happening, what driver behavior is happening that triggers some of those alerts and diagnostic trouble codes and things. A tremendous advantage to knowing when your vehicles will be out of service and planning for that. The repair costs and the drop for that is huge. A tremendous opportunity for you to save money. And this is sort of what it sort of boils down to. Diagnostic trouble codes are the function, what's behind every check engine light you ever saw, whether it's on your personal vehicle or a commercial vehicle. That check engine light, behind it, there's a code. It could be one of thousands of codes. Your maintenance folks know what this is. You plug into the onboard diagnostic computer of the vehicle, and it gives you information. That information can tell us details about exactly what's wrong with the vehicle. And as we said before, with telematics, you can actually see the behavior, how fast they were going, hard braking, hard accelerating, things that might cause it, which you cannot see if you just bring your vehicle into a shop at night. So these trouble codes part of a wonderful way to help plan your vehicle's maintenance. Job history, the way your jobs operate. I mean, how many of you really can look back and say, how many vehicles did I have on this spot at this time? What were the bottlenecks for my schedules on that particular day? You maybe get to the end of a week, you're sitting around talking with your lead foreman or your lead people, or maybe it's this week about last week, and you're trying to make sure those problems don't come up again. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be able to replicate with the data in visual terms what that job history looked like last week and do some analysis of what caused it? Seeing that history of when you got there, how long you were there, making the little small changes to a fleet's behavior or to driver behavior. Maybe you had some drivers do it right, others that did not. Being able to help them figure out what that is huge. We've got driver apps and applications for the fleet manager, reports that are maybe better driven by a CFO or a finance person. All of these reports and applications give clues and indications to where vehicles are working, efficiently and well and for a long time each day, and others that are not. And let's drill into what the facts were in those moments on those vehicles that weren't operating well, or the ones that were operating well. Help the drivers that operated well in that particular chaotic week to teach those that were having some difficulty. Tremendous advantages that our customers realize. The fourth method is addressing last-minute routing needs. I am certain that if you're on this webinar, like many of our other customers, have people start the day with a plan. They start their week with a plan. They know what's happening. You feel like you know what's happening. The organization's got a plan. It's Monday morning and the wheels roll. And then 10 a.m. happens, and 11 a.m., and 12:30. And things conspire in your workday to change the plan as it was. Maybe it's a tool that breaks, a customer of yours who wasn't ready for your timing, and things you just cannot control. But how you react to that, you can control. Rerouting those vehicles and not doing that manually, being able to have the right asset in the right spot at the moment when you need it, or at least be able to share that with a prospective customer, tremendous advantage. We've had customers, one comes to mind where they did, this is a public service thing, where they were actually using a vacuum vehicle to clean out pipelines. There was a major problem with traffic. They had to reroute for the day, and were able to do that significantly better than they had in the past. And we got a really nice note from a customer. These are the types of things that you just can't control, but instead of picking up the phone saying, hey, where are you? Hey, where are you? You've got a tool that brings you to the logic of where those vehicles are, take a look at physically where they are, make some assessment of that, hit a button that says, show me where I have two vehicles in the same spot at the same time. Maybe that's a great thing. Maybe they're sharing tools. Maybe that's not a great thing. They should be in better deployed arrangement or somewhere else in the territory. Instead of wondering where that is, you can have that information come to you by exception, better than searching for what's working. And lastly, being prepared for changes in weather and traffic. These are newer features. They've been around. We've all seen radar screens, and they, you'll see traffic in the morning, give you traffic and weather. This is traffic and weather together with your fleet put in the picture. That's really what is possible now. You can actually see the map of where your vehicles are, overlay the weather, and engage customers. Maybe there's traffic problems. You can send a truck in another way, or just change the stop order. We had a customer just a couple weeks ago gave me some really good feedback about being able to change the stop order based on traffic dynamics. And quite honestly, some of their drivers had been telling them so, and they really didn't have a mechanism to sort of prove it out. And it really made for some good camaraderie between the drivers and the managers who were finally seeing the same thing. So a tremendous advantage to being able to have these tools available, and they all go to the way you utilize your fleet. Having the resources where you need them, when you need them, means being able to take on more work or doing it more efficiently. There's a lot to be said about vehicles. I've got a customer, private sector customer with 52 vehicles, and recently we shared a good feedback session and some retraining for his folks. The driver said that they felt better about how they were being tasked, and they didn't feel as rushed as they did before. And I wonder if each of you on the call today would like to have drivers that are working to their best utilization without feeling rushed. Because I think feeling rushed for all of us gives us some anxiety about work, and of course it may translate to less than safe conditions, making decisions that are more reactive than proactive. These are things you really can get your hands around with fleet telematics and being able to work on the utilization of your vehicles. So what's it mean for you? Improvements in reduction of idle time and the fuel, reducing fuel that you use, being able to more, properly send your folks in the right spot. These numbers may be ones that you'll get, but honestly, some of these are even pessimistic. We've had customers on the high end get much better results. Really, what gets measured gets done. And if we measure it and we put it on our system here and give you the ability to make that part of your analytics dashboard, you'll measure it and it'll get done. And these are the 5 steps: identifying those key metrics, being able to be more schedule proactive with your maintenance, being able to analyze your job history and make good decisions, being able to address those last-minute challenges to routing, and lastly, being able to handle weather and traffic. Terrific opportunity for you to get some improvement in your fleet utilization. So with that, really ends the presentation. Be happy to take any questions that may be out there. Jana?
Thanks, Matt, for providing all of that great information around fleet utilization. It was very informative. Thank you again. So before we jump into the question and answer session, I'd like to cover just 2 items very quickly here. First, your feedback is important to us, so please take a minute to rate our webinar. You can do this by selecting the rate button within your webinar player. And second, the recording of today's webinar will be made available for your viewing shortly after we finish here today. And with that, let's open it up for Q&A. And Matt, we've already got some questions in here for you. The first one is, how do you define rate utilization? Can you define that?
Absolutely, we can. And the answer to that is the utilization rate for you is really going to be based on the metrics that matter for you. So once again, not to be too elusive, but really it should be a small handful of key metrics that matter. And we have a lot of that by industry already. So odds are very high that you'll be coming from an industry that we already know a lot about, got a lot of existing customers, and without using their specific named data, we can share with you a good starting point for what those metrics are, and then work with you to fine-tune that. And really, it's not about how I define utilization. It's about how you define utilization, and that's how I help you. Best answer I could give. I hope that helps.
Great. Thank you, Matt. The next question that we have in is tailored around industry segments. And the question is, what are the major differences between managing government fleets and private sector fleets?
So government fleets are, a tremendously different from a regular fleet. The profit motive is not always there, and sorry, a little dry tickle there. The profit motive for some in the public sector isn't always there, where private sector managers will tell you, hey, we've got money burning a hole in our pocket here, there's a customer waiting, et cetera, but the concept of an internal customer or jobs that have to be completed are very important. So I would say the biggest thing that our government customers focus on more than others would be safety, proper movement through the community. There's a lot of large vehicles, and often a lot of government folks will tell us we have to start and stop jobs at a certain time. We have to obey certain traffic patterns and these types of things. So they're a little more focused on timing as it relates to other factors that they have to respond to, when the streets open, when the police detail's there to cordon off the road, whereas other private sector vehicles are a little more focused on, customer dollars and cents. There's a lot of similar concepts there, but again, different flavors for each, and lots of good opportunity for us to discuss and help set up metrics that will mean better utilization for you.
All right, thanks, Matt. The next question that came in is around routing and tracking job history. And the question is, can we track and show all stops that each vehicle makes?
Absolutely. So one can drill down into every movement and stop of a vehicle, speed, speed over time, speed in a location, specific locations that matter to you, not just stops, but where they're stopping. All of your landmarks, the things that matter to you, your customers, the stops where you go, maintenance locations, your driver's home residence, the satellite locations that you have, all of these things can be put in as a landmark, and they can be classified separately. You can report on each one of those. So show me how many times we stopped in a day. Show me how many times this type of vehicle stopped in a day. Show me how many times a vehicle like this stopped in a day at a non-business related location. There's a tremendous amount of detail that's there. Generally, though, I would say it's important here to note that you really want to get to where you work by exception. When one first starts with telematics, there's a lot of map and Q&A. Hey, I want to look at the map and see the dots on the map. A lot of advantage that comes from that, but what you really want is to set up parameters on how you want your fleet to operate, and when those parameters are violated, to have those alerts and messages and reports come to you. We can have these messages and those moments find you rather than you hunting for it. Hope that helps.
Great, thank you. The next question that has come in is, can you explain more about tracking fleet during bad weather?
Sure, not a whole lot more to explain there. There are companies and organizations that have to respond to unique dynamics in their world. You maybe live near mountains or near locales that cause slippery conditions at different times of year earlier than thought. I've got customers in the Carolinas and Tennessee valleys that now are already starting to experience more fog, and soon there will be icy and slippery conditions. It's not just rain that shows up on the radar. There's sophisticated radar that's involved with our product, and you can see some of these other conditions. Now, it's not a guarantee, of course. It's an indicator. It's as good as the radar technology gives you, but there are ways to be able to see which vehicles are in those locales. We can work with you to put geofences around those routes and roads and locations where they're most likely to happen. Your folks probably know where those are, and when when we're going to route somebody through that, we can get an alert. We can know when those people enter and exit, and you can check up on the weather. There's literally dozens of ways to do that. We'd love the opportunity to show that to you.
Matt, would you also say that helps to provide better timing estimates to customers?
Certainly it can. I think that the one thing you can't do is really say how long it's going to take to get through a particular patch. But if you reroute somebody around weather, that's a tremendous advantage. I think that's something that could be a huge benefit. So if you say, hey, I do have weather in this area, I'm going to put somebody on interstate routes that go around that spot, yes, I definitely see that as an advantage, being to be able to tip off a customer and give them that info.
All right, great, thank you. All right, so we have time for one question, maybe two. And the next question that's come in is around product capabilities. And the question is, can the devices be used to monitor other pieces of equipment, like, for example, a landscape tractor?
Absolutely. So there are many ways to monitor equipment. So that we have on our system the ability to put what's called a PTO, or power takeoff sensor. If you have a tow truck or a cherry picker, like a bucket that lifts, a worker up above cutting trees, for instance, that sort of thing. When those are engaged in an on or off fashion, you can see that happening with a date and time stamp and track it and report on it. So absolutely, it's a nice benefit.
Thank you so much, Matt. Okay. So that concludes our webinar today, as well as the question and answer session. And Matt, I want to say thank you again for delivering an educational presentation today on 5 ways to boost fleet utilization. If we were unable to get to any of your questions, or if you have questions to submit still, we'll make sure to have someone follow up with you shortly after we conclude here today. And thank you, everyone, and have a great day.